Well, welcome to Speaking of Horses. I'm your host, Wayne Williams, and we're ready to go right here with some of the great stories from the horse industry. So join us as we get ready to go Speaking of Horses right here on this station. Well, hey, welcome to Speaking of Horses today. We're glad to have you join us here on the radio show on this station. Now, we were recently at the World Clydesdale Show held in Madison, Wisconsin, where Clydesdales from many parts of the country gathered. We caught up with an artist and designer, Char Wade. Let's listen to that conversation. Well, hey, welcome to Speaking of Horses. We are at the 2018 World Clydesdale Show. It's October of 2018. We're in Madison, Wisconsin. And we're having a great time. We're showing you clips of different things. This is day 3 of the World Clydesdale Show. This is on Saturday, October 27th, I do believe.
Yes, it is.
And Char Wade is my guest. Now, what we want to talk about, and while we're talking, we're going to let you take a look at some of the things that Char does. But
thank you.
You do some really unique furniture, all horse related. It could be Clydesdales, but it could be any breed. You're not specifically set up to do the Clydesdale, but you do everything.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about what you do.
I am an artist. I do paintings. I make my base paintings, and I do multiple breed shows, but this one I've consolidated and made Clydesdale furniture. And I make ornaments of all different breeds, and I've done it over for 25 years, and I've made Santas that have in collections from around the world. Patrick Swayze has had some of them. I've done work for Wayne Newton. My Santas have been in the museum in Oklahoma, and they're in the Kentucky, the Madison, the Kentucky, no wait.
Talking horse park?
No, they're in the mansion in Kentucky. There are 4 of them that were in the mansion there. They were purchased from the governor.
Oh, and the governor's mansion in Frankfurt?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
right.
And they went. Yes, they were in there. So they've been in collections from around the world now.
What is your inspiration when you do, like, we've seen some of the stuff here and we're still showing it, but you know, you've got some beautiful horse portraits or inlays into old furniture, and you take pieces of leather from saddles and put this together. What's your inspiration to doing this?
I like to repurpose, and I think a lot of the furniture, if you just saw it sitting there, nobody would say, oh, that's an old piece of furniture. I look at it and say, oh, it's really built very well. It's made of tongue and groove, or it's got the peg built into it. It's not like cardboard furniture. And then I'll say, oh, I think a horse picture will look well that way. And then I make them very Western, and I put all the stud work around that. And then, like the harness parts, even though there's a picture that I have that's hung up, the bridle is hung up upside down. But when I put it the correct way, the throat latch part of it wasn't hanging correct. And I even left the knot into it, so that's how it was used, and that's what, it was too big on that particular animal, so I left the knot in there. So yeah, and a bed frame I have, it's part of a pony saddle that I've taken apart, the fenders where the stirrups were, and then where behind the pommel, where the saddle part goes, I left a maker's mark on it, and I put that on the back of the bed frame.
Wow. You know, some of those little things like that are what really make these pieces very unique.
Thank you.
And yours are all unique. And now, do people just come to you and commission you to do something?
I have done that very much so. There's going to be a gal that's going to give me parts from their harnesses for her 5 children, and I'm going to be doing a painting of it, of their animals, and then I will take the old harness parts, and I'm going to be making a collage for 5 of her children for Christmas this year. I've done it for other families with Santas, that I've made it for their families who have like a piece of jewelry that, and I'll use it like a belt buckle, or if they have furs from Aunt Sally, I'll take the furs.
Some special piece from the family heirloom.
Yes, yes.
Right. So now, where are you located?
I'm in Union Grove, Wisconsin, which is just below Racine.
But you work worldwide.
Yes, I have gone from Massachusetts all the way out to Colorado to big shows. Yep, and I do online with the Facebook. I don't have a website because it's too hard to, because everything is one of a kind. And as soon as I get it posted, it will be sold. I do a lot on Facebook with Char Wade, and then it'll come up very soon that I'll be putting things on there, and then I'll have like a number by it, and then you can order that, or say you need a different breed on that particular ornament or so forth on that.
Okay, so you can order that style and then have your breed put on it if you wish.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
Well, you know, the horse world is a unique world, and people love to, there are people who do horsehair art.
Yes.
You know, and make some wonderful things out of horsehair. And a lot of people, like, if they're losing a horse and they have to euthanize, you know, they save a chunk of tail or mane, and they have things made out of it. People are very sentimental about their horses.
Yes, they're part of the family.
Coming to you for pieces like this is a big deal for a lot of people.
Yes, it is. I make a lot of shadow boxes and I'll take a special, a monumental ribbon that's meant something to them that they've done with that horse. I'll put maybe some of that horses, or I'll take part of that bridle and I'll incorporate that into a shadow box. Yes.
Right. So, do you have horses?
Yes, I do. I showed Arabians for about 20 years, and now I have a Hoflinger stallion who is very, very drafty. He's only 54 inches tall, but he wears a 25-inch collar. He's got this huge...
He's got this massive neck, right?
He looks like a mini Belgian, absolutely, 100%. And he's gone in the ADS driving carriage classes, and he's won in the draft divisions multiple times.
And if you're, you know, like here we are at the World Clydesdale Show, but, you know, if you're looking at a smaller version of a draft horse, basically the Haflinger is in that category.
Yes.
And they're very versatile in that area, too.
Yes.
And they give you a lot of things you can design around, because the Haflinger, for those of you that don't know, is a horse from Austria.
Yes, they are.
And so you can now start to incorporate the Alps, village of Tyrolia, where they're from, village of Hafling, right where they were. Matter of fact, and you probably know this, but the Haflingers were in the area of the Alps where the Von Trapp family escaped when in the movie in Sound of Music about the Von Trapps escape was over the same region where the Haflingers developed.
The Temple Smith farm with the Lipizans are about 20 miles from me, and Mrs. Temple Smith, she's the first one who brought the Hoflingers over to the, so yes, I've taken the tour down there, and I've seen the carriages that were down there that she used in that Elfin Kong. We have all the pictures from back in there.
That Temple Farms there, which is just south of the Wisconsin border.
Wadsworth,
Wadsworth and north of Chicago, is quite a story. And of course, they brought over the Lipizans because Mr. Smith was acquainted with them through World War II, actually. And then in 1954-5, they started bringing the Haflingers over, who also were horses that American servicemen got to know during the war, and then decided to start bringing them over.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, and the same thing's true of the Pasafinos coming in from the Americas. It wasn't until after World War II when U.S. servicemen who were in Puerto Rico and down in that area saw the Pasafinos that they brought them.
Oh, no, that part I didn't know.
That's another breed that came into this country. They've been around down there 400 or 500 years, but they just hadn't been in the U.S. But all of this gives you the history of where these horse breeds came from to play off of when you design these things.
Yes, and I actually have a few sleighs that are European that have been imported from there, and I think they're from Norwegian in that area. There's hand-carved sleighs that are swan sleighs that were to be pushed. They never were meant to be pulled by a horse or a pony. They're actually like the stroller of the day.
Wow.
Yep, I have two of those in the booth.
That's neat. And of course, if you could play off of the history, you know, the Norwegian fjord was really brought back to prominence by Disney's movie Frozen.
Yes.
Because that was the fjord. Yes. My granddaughter in Indianapolis, who's 13, just is in love yet with Frozen.
Of course.
And that horse and you know, and that's a Norwegian fjord.
My granddaughters too love that movie. They were, I think they might be it again for Halloween. This
Could be.
This will be the third year.
So, Char, how do people contact you?
Charlene Wade on Facebook, and I'm from Union Grove, and it's right. Become a member and be a friend of me on Facebook.
Now, do you just do under your name, or do you have a company name?
I have a Char's Klosnick is my name of my business, but it's Char's and Char's Klosnicks. But that's, you can look underneath both of them, but Facebook seems to be kind of silly, so it's Charlene Wade.
That's fine. Yeah, they can find you that way.
That's how they can find me.
And we appreciate you taking a minute to talk to us, because what you've got that we're looking at here at the World Clydesdale Show is some really unique and wonderful stuff.
Well, thank you very much. It was nice talking
thank
to you.
You stay with us here on Speaking of Horses, because we're going all around the World Clydesdale Show 2018 here in Madison, Wisconsin.
Love to visit with you.
Hey, we at Speaking of Horses invite you to join us as we bring you many, many programs over the next few months, from retired racehorse makeover programs to horse rescue operations to therapeutic riding operations. Anything that benefits the horse, the rider, any discipline, any wonderful project. So we want you to join us right here on Speaking of Horses. We got some really good stuff coming up. And of course, you can always check out all of the other stuff we do, video as well, at speakingofhorses.com on our website. In the meantime, thanks for joining us here on this radio station. And we're going to bring you a lot more of Speaking of Horses. Well, we want to thank you for joining us here on Speaking of Horses. You know, we had a great time while we were at the World Clydesdale Show in Madison, Wisconsin, late October of 2018. You can watch video reports that we did and see some of the teams and the wonderful Clydesdales performing. There were nearly 700 Clydesdales at the show. Just go to speakingofhorses.com, or better yet, go to Speaking of Horses, the group or the page on Facebook. And you can watch many of our videos and see the big horses perform. One of the nice classes in the video, we have the 6-horse Supreme Hitch, 21 hitches, and we got them all in the arena for the finale. So thanks for joining us, and go on and watch much more at Speaking of Horses on Facebook or speakingofhorses.com from the World Clydesdale Show in Madison, Wisconsin. See you next time. Well, that's our show. I'm your host, Wayne Williams. Speaking of Horses, we'll be back next week with a brand new show. Or join us at speakingofhorses.com.